Right from in the rhythmic flow we fly, through the darkness we soar high. Drone explores, searching the skies, seeing what we can't see with naked eyes.
Brodsworth Hall, near Brodsworth, 5 miles, 8 kilometers northwest of Doncaster in South Yorkshire, is one of the most complete surviving examples of a Victorian country house in England. It is virtually unchanged since the 1860s. It was designed in the Italianate style by the obscure London architect Philip Wilkinson, then 26 years old. He was commissioned by Charles Sabine Augustus Thellison, who inherited the estate in 1859, but the original estate was constructed in 1791 for merchant and slave owner Peter Thellison. It is a Grade 1 listed building. George Hay, 8th Earl of Kinnoul, bought the Brodsworth estate from Sir John Wentworth in 1713 and rebuilt the house in the Georgian style, but lost his money in the South Sea bubble crash of 1720 and was obliged to take the position of ambassador to the Ottoman Empire. His second son, Robert, later Archbishop of York, took up residence on the estate instead and made a number of improvements to the house and grounds. On his death in 1777, the house was left empty, and after his eldest son became the 10th Earl of Kinnoul in 1787, he sold the estate in 1790 to Peter Thellison, 1737 to 1797, of the Swiss banking family. Peter Thellison had come from Geneva and settled in England, becoming a director of the Bank of England. This role saw him provide loans to slave ship and plantation owners. As these slave owners defaulted on debts, Thellison amassed interests in Caribbean plantations and became a tobacco and sugar importer. He wrote an unusual will, unsuccessfully challenged by his family in the Thellison will case, whereby his fortune was put in trust to be untouched for 3 generations. Peter Thellison's grandson Arthur Thellison married the daughter of another Antigua slave owner, Sir Christopher Bethel Codrington. The Thellisons were slave owners in Grenada and Montserrat as late as 1820. One of the 2 eventual beneficiaries was the 5th Baron Rendlesham. The other was Peter's great-grandson Charles Sabine Augustus Thellison, who in 1859 inherited half the bequest plus the Brodsworth estate with its Georgian house. He demolished the existing house and commissioned the present one, which was built in 2 years between 1861 and 1863. A keen yachtsman, he also commissioned 4 yachts, the last 2 being successively the largest in the world. He was appointed High Sheriff of Yorkshire for 1866–1867. He and his wife, Georgiana, left 4 sons, all of whom died childless, and the house therefore passed to each son in turn. The 3rd son, Charles Thellison, leased the mineral rights to the Brodsworth Colliery Company and also rented them the land for the construction of Woodlands Model Village to accommodate the miners. In addition, he paid for the construction of All Saints Church, 1913, for the village. He was also responsible for the introduction of electric light to the hall. After the First World War, spiraling costs resulted in the owners closing off parts of the house. On the death of the youngest son, Augustus Thellison, in 1931, the house passed to his nephew, Captain Charles Grant Dalton, 1882 to 1952. He was High Sheriff of Yorkshire for 1942 to 1943. The last resident of the house was Sylvia Grant Dalton, wife of Captain Grant Dalton, who fought a losing battle for 57 years against leaking roofs on the mansion and land subsidence from nearby coal mining. After her death in 1988, her daughter, Pamela Williams, gave the hall and gardens to English Heritage in 1990. The contents of the house were purchased by the National Heritage Memorial Fund and transferred to the ownership of English Heritage. It was decided to conserve the interiors as found, rather than replacing or restoring them. They demonstrate how a once opulent Victorian house grew comfortably old.